Thanks once again for passing by the channel. If you like the content, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, share the video if you enjoyed it, felt it was useful. Also leave an Instagram page, leave a link to it in the description, go and give it a follow if you enjoy it. And let's get into this. So, last week, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, I put a post on my community tab and I said basically that I got good feedback. I've always gotten good feedback on my Fighters with a Problem series and that I want to continue doing it, but I want to let the fans decide this time. Now, I don't have the actual figures on me at this minute, but I know it was kind of between AJ and Callum Smith. Now, Kovalev and Demetrius Andre were there, but they were kind of, distant compared to those two. So Anthony Joshua got the most votes. I think like 150 people voted on that, which is quite good. So they wanted to see Anthony Joshua has a big problem, and I think he does. He doesn't have a problem in a sense of... I want to point out now what I do for these Fighters with a Problem series, because I have a lot of subscribers, a lot of new subscribers who may not know about this series, what I do. Basically, I look at a fighter and I'm not necessarily looking at their flaws as in technical flaws. Obviously some fighters who I've done series on, like Dave Allen, have technical flaws, but I'm looking at them in the grand picture, promotional, who are they going to fight next, what if this doesn't happen, what if this doesn't happen. I'm kind of looking at every aspect and giving my 2 cents on it. And when I look at Anthony Joshua is a fighter who, for my money, even though he went out, he beat Andy Ruiz, he's still on the comeback trail. He is. Because he fought Andy Ruiz in June, and even in that fight, he didn't look fully there. And obviously, we know what happened. He got beaten up pretty bad in that fight, got dropped 4 times. A lot of people doubted if he could come back. When you hear people who were once trained by Andy Ruiz, like who trained Andy Ruiz, like Abel Sanchez, saying Ruiz he'll just go off the rails in terms of eating, not giving a shit. That's exactly what happened. That's why I picked Anthony Joshua to win that fight on points. You can go watch any videos I always said AJ on points to win that fight. He did win that fight on points. He didn't exchange with Andy Ruiz. He just kept his distance. He boxed him. Okay? But that Andy Ruiz was not the Andy Ruiz who fought him in Madison Square Garden. Let's make no mistake about it. And Anthony Joshua moving forward, there's a lot of things he's going to have to learn to get used to again. He's going to have to learn to know when to apply the pressure, when not to, when to step on the gas, when not. That's why I think Kubrat Pulev is a good opponent, because even though AJ won't be able to box him like he did Andy Ruiz, there won't be a perceived threat in terms of punching power, in terms of defense, in terms of just a guy who's hard to hit. Kubrat Pulev is none of those things, and there's not going to be a lot coming back at him. It's really only going to be jabs, hard, stiff jabs come back at him. Kubrat Pulev doesn't have much of a right hand. He's no inside game to speak of. So moving forward for AJ in terms of his rehabilitation, because he does still need to rehab, it's fine with that. But if you look at the grand picture, what does Eddie Hearn want to do with Anthony Joshua? He wants to get him undisputed. All right, that's what Eddie Hearn has always wanted to do. He wanted to get Anthony Joshua into an undisputed fight. Okay, and Anthony Joshua, he's been rushed. He's been rushed. He fought Klitschko in his 18th, 19th fight, something like that. So, Anthony Joshua, he's not had the kind of progression that I'm sure Eddie Hearn would have wanted. I mean, before he fought Charles Martin, there was talk of him going for a European title. And obviously, once the Charles Martin fight came about, it was straight to world level. He's got to defend the title. And, obviously, he's done that. He fought guys like Brazil, Molina. Obviously, he had the Klitschko fight then, which came true. But Eddie Hearn, the plan for AJ is undisputed. And when I look at the path to undisputed, there are so many things in the way. We've got mandatories, obviously, to get in the way. Anthony Joshua will do his IBF mandatory. Who's to say, because Eddie Hearn is saying this, that, and the other about the WBO, who's to say WBO won't decide, we'll strip AJ. Now, I know that's not the worst thing in the world for Anthony Joshua, purely because if he's stripped by AJ, there's 1 and number 2 are Parker and Usyk, in-house fight, easy unification. Not the worst thing in the world. But if you're looking at the WBC, looking at the Wilder Fury rematch, there's talk of a trilogy. If that fight is going the distance, and we'll say Fury wins a close decision, they're going to do a rematch. So Anthony Joshua will have to wait again, during which times more mandatories might be called, during which times, he might go on the road again. The fans in the UK might decide, we don't want to see Anthony Joshua fight, I don't know who, like a top tail like Carlos Takam again or someone like that. We don't want to see that. We want to see him fight Dylan White. We want to see him, I doubt they'll want this fight, but maybe they want to see him fight Jarrell Miller, someone like that. And you got to think of, if Deontay Wilder comes out of this Tyson Fury situation, let's call it that, or the trilogy, we'll call it, maybe not a situation, but comes out of this trilogy with the WBC title, you got to imagine that undisputed fight is going to be very, very hard to make. It's going to be damn near impossible, because we've seen what's been going on with Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman, not even in the heavyweight division, even with Charlo, this whole Charlo situation, trying to get him to fight Demetrius Andre, you know. So I can't imagine it's going to be any easier. And Al Heyman had the heavyweight title. You know, he had Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder. He had the heavyweight title. That's all gone now. Apart from Wilder, that's gone. Is Al Heyman really going to relinquish control of the heavyweight division? What little control he has if Deontay Wilder comes through this trilogy? I doubt that. You know, we've seen the issues that have gone on with Al Heyman and Deontay Wilder in regards to making this undisputed fight before. Okay, you know, I think it's a hard ask to get that undisputed fight if it's Deontay Wilder who comes out of this with the WBC title. I think with Fury it's easier, but with Fury, the question, like, with Fury, you know, you kind of can tell that he's not going to have that many fights left. You know, we can already tell that. Is he going to fight Deontay Wilder this week, win, give him a rematch, and then maybe fight, you know, 2 more fights against maybe Dillian Whyte, or, you know, your guess is as good as mine, but is he going to really take the Andy Joshua fight? You know, if he doesn't want it, or if the money is not quite right, or maybe he'll want it in the States. You know, Fury's been talking about, you know, staying in the States, fighting in the States. Maybe he'll want it in the States. Maybe he won't want to go to the UK. Maybe he won't want to go to Saudi Arabia. Because we've heard Eddie Hearn mention Saudi Arabia. We hear he's actually going to be taking a show over there in July. Don't think it'll be Anthony Joshua, but it could be a show anyway. It could be Dillian Whyte, you never know. And with Anthony Joshua, I think Anthony Joshua will lose again. You know, I like watching Anthony Joshua as a fighter. You know, I think since he's turned pro, I've pretty much seen every single one of his fights live on TV. Never gone to see him in person, like, but I expect him to lose again. You know, I do. I think Anthony Joshua, there's a very, very good chance he may lose before we get to see that undisputed fight. I think there's a very good chance he'd lose to Usyk if that fight gets made. And let's not forget, that Usyk fight will be a mandatory. So if Anthony Joshua goes in there, fights Usyk before he fights the winner of Wilder Fury, essentially, them titles are gone. You know, he's a mandatory. Doesn't very rarely have rematch clause in their contracts. Very rarely. They're most of the time the challenger, the mandatory is advised not to sign it if it has a rematch clause, because you get into situations like Tyson Fury got into when he signed that rematch clause. It meant that Glasgow had to fight for a vacant title because, you know, Fury had a rematch clause in the IBF. You know what they're like. So with regards to Anthony Joshua undisputed, I don't think we're going to see an undisputed fight. Not in this era anyway. Maybe when these guys start getting older, start showing signs of, you know, wear and tear. And I'm not necessarily saying this person is going to be the next best heavyweight, but maybe someone up and coming like a Daniel Dubois will come in and take what's left of these guys in, you know, 4 or 5 years. I'm not necessarily saying it'll be him, but it could be one of these up and comers who could come in and, you know, pick up the titles that these guys are, you know, starting to vacate or leaving behind, and maybe then we'll see undisputed title fights. You know, maybe then. But as for right now, I think AJ, if he wants the undisputed fight, it's a long way off. I think he's going to have to hope and pray Tyson Fury comes through this trilogy, because I'm going to call it that, because I think we're going to get the rematch after this rematch. I think he's going to have to hope and pray that Fury comes through it. In terms of AJ being promoted by Eddie Hearn, Eddie Hearn's done a great job with Anthony Joshua, it has to be said. Although Anthony Joshua, Frank Warren could have done a good job with Anthony Joshua. You know, Anthony Joshua has the look, the punch of power, big heavyweight, Olympic gold medalist. You know, anyone could have promoted Anthony Joshua. Let's put it like that. But Eddie Hearn still, he's done what he's done for Anthony Joshua. He's done very well. And from that point of view, I think AJ is fine. I think in terms of chasing down the fights that he wants, the Deontay Wilder fight, the Tyson Fury fight, I think he might have some issues. I still think that, even though I think Dillian Whyte wants the Deontay Wilder fight, wants the WBC title more, I think if you flash the right amount of money at Dillian Whyte, he would take the Anthony Joshua fight, and that could be a route they end up going down, you know, because both guys are well known in the UK. Could probably do Wembley. Probably could do Wembley with Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua. So it could be a case if we're going down these routes as opposed to undisputed routes, which is not really what we want to see. You know, we want to see the undisputed fight. I want to see Wilder versus Joshua. But at this stage, I think if that's the fight they want, I don't think we're going to get it. I think that's where AJ's biggest problem is. And I think, as well as that, AJ, he could still, like, I think he'll lose again. I really do. I don't think AJ will avenge this Andy Ruiz loss, and then that'll be him. You know, he'll finish his career with just the one loss which he avenged. No, I think he'll take more than a couple of belts. Truth be told, I think he will. It just depends by who. You know, it might not be by a Fury or Wilder. You know, he could rematch Dylan White. He could walk onto a left hook. You know, a better left hook than the first one that caught him with in the first fight. He could fight Jarrell Miller, and you know, whether that will happen or not remains to be seen. If it'll ever happen, I mean, with Miller, you know what he's like. But Miller could, you know, have that style. He could walk him down and make Anthony Joshua overexert himself. He could do that. So, you know, all these things I'm thinking of when it comes to Anthony Joshua. That's why I think he has problems. Not in terms of physical. The flaws in AJ's game are, we know them. They've always been there. He's very stiff, very stationary. He stays in the pocket a bit too long. I think his chin's probably not the greatest, but his powers of recovery are even worse. You know, that's one of AJ's biggest flaws, is that maybe he can take a decent enough shot. Maybe he can't. But when he gets hit and he gets hurt, he stays hurt. That's one thing about AJ's game that you could say Tyson Fury doesn't have. You know, Tyson Fury will get hit, he'll get dropped, but he'll recover. One of AJ's biggest flaws in his game is that he gets hit, he stays hit for a couple of rounds. And when he overexerts himself, stamina problems. So, now these are all what I got to say about Anthony Joshua. These are the problems I think he has moving forward. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think that I'm reading too much. Maybe you think the Wilder fight is actually an easy fight to make. Maybe you think once Wilder gets Fury out of the way, if he gets him out of the way, he'll happily take the Anthony Joshua fight. There's been that much going on with that fight over the last few years that I seriously doubt we're going to see it ever, really, at this stage. But I could be wrong. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think down below. Leave it in the comment section. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, of course, if you are new. And as always, I will talk to you after.